that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
An iconic early preview attraction of what artificial intelligence would look like? Probably not, but I love that movie so much and that particular clip so much that I thought I'd pass it along, because along comes the world's richest man to say we should have a pause in this entire ChatGPT thing because we don't know what it means and we don't know the risks to society, going so far as to say we got to have a 6-month pause here to figure out what's going on. That's the world's richest man saying that, who got that rich because of technology and because he saw the ample benefits of technology. So should we be worried? Carl Sabo joins us right now, the Vice President, General Counsel for NetChoice, Professor of Internet Law, George Mason University, Scalia Law School, so he knows of what he speaks. Carl, it is interesting there, because people of my generation, that kind of crystallizes the fear then, and maybe it's more pronounced now, that the technology we create can turn around and undo us. I think that's kind of what Elon Musk is saying here. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I always call it the time to Terminator dilemma. And fun fact about Hal, it's IBM, one letter backwards. But look, what Elon Musk is warning us about is one thing. But what we are seeing in a letter is calling for a government ban on innovation for 6 months. And that's just a bridge too far. This is the United States of America. We have always operated on the notion of permissionless innovation. Government permission is what we see out of Europe. And if you look at their technology sector, it's anemic. It doesn't exist. And that's because here in the US, we're allowed to innovate. Now, of course, does AI have incredible power? Absolutely. But here's the thing. We need to identify what are the problems we're trying to stop and address those rather than trying to outright ban a tool. AI today is being used to identify cancer in people. And it does a better job identifying cancer than doctors do, because it's looking at thousands, if not millions, of different x-rays. And I don't know a single doctor who can do that. That's a good. Now, is there a potential downside? Absolutely. But I think an outright ban will leave America behind, and especially in our race against China to develop, innovate, and continue to be the world leader, that's a dangerous step backwards.
Well, to your point, Carl, they're not going to slow down that technology and the research that goes along with it. So it behooves us to keep going. I get what you're saying there, but a lot of people maybe fear for their own jobs when they talk about the threats of this technology, how quickly it can eliminate potentially so many jobs, because it's pretty good at what it wants to do and expand a lot more things to do. I think that's what unnerves people. But we see that at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution. We see that at the move from horse and buggy to automobiles and what have you. So I know our past is bumpy transitioning to these. I just don't know in this case what we're transitioning to and whether we should be a little bit cautious. I'm not saying stop it and stop the research and stop everything, but look at these other side issues. They could be big issues, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We should proceed cautiously. 100%. I completely agree with that. But I want us to be in control of our decisions, not turning to the government and asking them for the right to innovate, the right to look to new futures. Use the example of the Industrial Revolution. Imagine if Henry Ford had to get permission from the US government to create the assembly line. He might not have gotten it. And simultaneously, today, every time we step onto an elevator, we push a button and we go to the floor we need to. Well, once upon a time, that didn't exist either. We had elevator operators. And yes, you're absolutely right. Whenever there is innovation, there will always be change, and that will cause stress on the system. But that doesn't mean we don't innovate. That doesn't mean we continue moving forward, because if we don't, somebody else will. And at the time when the U.S. needs to maintain its global dominance, this is one of the last areas that we can easily be outmaneuvered by a foreign adversary.
I think Musk is also saying, and obviously you disagree, we could be outmaneuvered by the technology itself. It will make us, the worker bees, not the other way around.
Oh, I know it. And that's something we need to put in guardrails to make sure that doesn't happen. But we can do that as we continue to innovate and as we continue to develop the technology. And once we see stuff going off the rails, that's when we begin to rein it back in.
Yeah, but it's impossible. We've learned from Hal that he didn't open up the door, and it was not nice.
Yeah, but then he got to go on that big adventure through space and see that baby at the end.
Yeah,
but you're absolutely right. We need to make sure that we don't end up being, the servants, but simultaneously, we can't ignore and bury our head in the sand, because if we don't lead and set up the guardrails, somebody else will, and we don't know what they will unleash. So the U.S. needs to be in a position to be taking the leadership. So proceed cautiously, but not at the behest of the government.
Just remember, Carl, that Soylent Green is people. That's a whole nother issue we can get into. It's always good seeing you, my friend. And your, comfort with all of this science fiction movie stuff is remarkable. So thank you very much, Carl. We'll chat about more such movies in the future. I have a feeling we're going to keep regurgitating this very big issue. In the meantime, if you know anything about Howard Schultz and Starbucks, for years, decades, it was praised as a company especially generous to its workers, among the highest paid